Hello, everybody on LinkedIn. I'm really excited. This is Getting in Your Business with Coach Sandra. And today's guest is Kerry Dobson, who happens to be, surprise, surprise, a coach. So, welcome, Kerry. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Uh,
you as well.
I want to know, firstly, why you decided to become a coach.
Absolutely. So when I first started looking into coaching, it was back when I was working in corporations and organizations. And I had spent about 12 years in learning and development. And we'd gotten really good about how do you put training programs together. But there's kind of this constant disappointment because the change in behavior doesn't really happen. And so, based on the research I did, it really was that kind of missing piece was the coaching side of things, right? So, how do you really help people make changes in their lives? Because the reality is our body and our mind are literally wired not to help us change, right? To keep
Right.
steady. So it was that kind of final piece of the coaching. So that's what got me into coaching as a whole. And then in terms of the coaching that I do today, I was working in corporations, leading learning and development groups, and I had a COVID layoff, and I kind of had that reset to think, what is it that I want to do? And what I realized was in the corporate world, I was kind of constantly working with executives about what they think people should learn and how, what they should get coached on. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted to work with coaches who have programming that people really want to take, that they're choosing to take on their own versus kind of being mandated or required to for their job. So that's how I came to be working with coaches to help them create group courses, group coaching programs in person and online, but ones that people really want to take and that include the support that really helps people to make the changes they need to make.
So, what type of job were you in prior to coaching?
Yeah, so before coaching, I was in senior leadership in learning and development. So within corporations, helping to put together their training programs, their leadership programs. And then I started coaching from an organizational coaching standpoint, where I was an internal coach in those same organizations.
So, this is just happened organically for you.
Yeah, like it wasn't a final kind of destination per se. It was, I always thought that coaching was kind of the final piece of the puzzle. So I had facilitation, I had instructional design, and then coaching kind of was the final piece to really put it all together. Because the reality is how we communicate and teach people things does impact their ability to make change. So we want to do it in a specific way, but there's also the need for coaching to really help with that encouragement and support as people struggle to make changes. Because, as I said before, we're wired not to change.
Exactly. It's like that resistance is always there. So
Yeah.
I was looking at your profile again. I don't. I always tell people this. I'm not a reporter, so it's not going to be like all these gotcha questions or anything. I actually know all the questions I'm going to ask already, but as far as your profile says, established coaches hire me to help them create group courses. So that's really interesting too, because a lot of people start with one-on-ones and then will evolve to group coaching or add it in or whatever. Did you start off doing groups or did you start with one-on-ones? Like what was your process and what is your process now?
So it's interesting. I work one on one with clients to help them to create group programs. So all
Oh,
of my corporate background is groups, obviously, right? There's very little one on one coaching and programming in corporations. But the reason I work one on one with my clients is because everybody's program and what they're trying to do is unique. And it really helps to have that one-on-one time to really focus in on, is it what they're trying to put out there that we want to focus on? Is it how we're putting things together and how we're designing them? Is it how we're marketing them? Is it how we're leading the groups? So we can really kind of target the support to that. But what I'm doing is I'm helping them to create group programs. Because as you mentioned, a lot of coaches, most coaches start off one-on-one, right? They build their expertise and then they have either a body of work, a book, a framework, an idea,
courses,
right? All of it.
ebooks.
And
Yeah,
yeah, right. Like there's so many different ways, but they've kind of developed a system or a framework or a perspective. And
right.
then either they're offering the groups because they're just tapped out, they can't do one on one all the time, they don't have time for it, or sometimes one on one is cost prohibitive, right? So the group gives them that option to kind of help more people, but at a lower price point so more people can say yes. So The reality is there's lots of reasons why people do groups, but there's a lot of standards in terms of we could raise those standards in terms of how we actually facilitate groups. And the way I kind of make the story about this is if you think about how you were taught, you went to school, you had a teacher who was the expert and just talked at you, and you had some playtime in there. So what we typically do when we put groups together is we really focus on what we're saying to the group. But the reality is by bringing people together, there's such magic in community and such magic in groups, but you have to design your content. You have to design the area, whether that's virtual or in person, that people are coming together to really have that group magic, do the supportive thing that you want it to do.
Which is the whole idea of groups is to it should be less work for you, but you have to create, so you can create. Okay, that leads me to this other question then. So when you create, is it a course that you do, or like just the content? Are you changing it for different groups or just modifying it a little bit? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so I typically, it's kind of going beyond just a course, right? If you're just wanting an online course, for example, right? You just want to put it out there, get it out into the universe and people are taking it. I'm not really the person for you. But if you're looking at, listen, I've got some people in my community that would really benefit from coming together. And yes, there's some content I'm going to share with them, a framework, a process, whatever it is. But really my point is to bring people together. That's where I can help you, because it's all about how do you create that space, right? Things as simple as what do you do to set ground rules or rules of engagement to make it a safe space for people? How do you do accountability in a group? Because it looks different than it does one-on-one.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. So, do you have any special projects you have coming up? How do people? Oh, you're another Canadian. Okay, that's two. I did another interview. I was telling Kerry earlier. She's from Banff. When you're Edmonton,
that's
so
pretty close. Yeah,
same province.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you have anything coming up that you're doing aside from this? Like any promotions or any special anything coming up?
Yes, absolutely. So typically what I do is I offer what I call a Create for Your Community strategy session, where we spend about 45 minutes and just get a really good understanding of, do you have a group program? Or are you trying to create a new one? And then talk just a little bit about the support and a couple key things you can do to really kind of flush those out and start creating them. But what I'm doing, that we're recording this for July-ish, right? What I'm doing is I'm actually offering people what I call a mini program review or a deep dive. And so for those people who already have a program, what I'm doing is we'll meet for that 45-minute strategy session, but then you'll hand over either, if it's an online component, a module, or if it's an in-person component, kind of your notes for what you talk about in one session. And I'll do a program review through the framework that we use, which is Design with Ease. And I'll do a program review just to say, this is what's really great about how you're doing it, and this is what would be even better with. But for those people who don't have a program and are in that point of transition where they're saying, yeah, I need a group program, what I'll do is I'll do a deep dive with them. So it's about 2 hours where after that strategy session, we really talk about what are your goals from a business standpoint? What are the needs of your clients? Why now? Why a group? And then you'll walk away with some really clear things to keep in mind as you're putting that group together.
That's awesome. So is it one session, a 2-hour session, or?
So it's the strategy session just to kind of see if you like me, right? See if you're the right fit. And then it's, if you don't have a program, it's a 2-hour deep dive where we'll go through kind of your vision for your program. And then if you do have a program, it's not so much time together. You kind of give me what you have and I take a look at it. And then I'll do a program review where I'll kind of meet with you again for about 45 minutes. And I'll go through and say, here's what's going really well with how you set it up. And here's some things you can do to make it even better.
Okay. So it sounds to me like your main clients are businesses that have several people working.
So no, it's for coaches, right? So a coach who's got, they either have a group program already, right? So they have, whether it's some people, it's like they just have a table, like a Excel spreadsheet of what they talk about in each session, or maybe it's a Word document, or it's for people who don't have a group program, but they really want to make one. And this is kind of the first step
Yeah.
to putting that together.
So they can like get more organized, get their thoughts together, and just really, so they could be doing group coaching and having some success, but say they want to like 10x their business, that you would be a good person for them to contact.
Absolutely. You know, even after 15 years, there's always things you can do each time you do a group. So it's just having a fresh set of eyes to take a look at it. So the majority of people that I've worked with so far have actually had success with their program. They just want to, as you said, 10x it. Or sometimes what happens is your group of clients kind of up level too, right? They've done really well. And so now you're kind of saying, okay, I need to up level it too. I need to get clearer. I need more clarity. I need this to be super impactful and experiential.
Awesome. Well, this is again a short segment, but thank you so much for taking the time to share this. I think you have a specific niche that is different from anyone that I've spoken to so far. And I love that. I mean, everybody's different, but this is something that people can really expand if they are doing groups and can really collaborations. I mean, this is for anybody who wants to meet with you, connect with you, follow you, work with you. So your information is going to be in the header of this. You're welcome to share this with your community as well. Obviously, your name's on it. But I want to thank you for your time. This has been really interesting. I'm getting a little bit of chills. I love it. And we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you on in the community. So thank you, Kerry, so much for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.